views and opinions expressed in this program are those of the participants and do not necessarily reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
Hey there, welcome to the Bronx Buzz. This is BronxNet's TV program where we interview people in the media. We interview journalists, photographers, authors, filmmakers, anybody involved in Bronx media. And the whole idea is to give you a chance to get in their heads and find out what they're thinking about when they put out what they put out. And this evening I am beyond thrilled because one of my best friends, one of my oldest friends, one of the guys who really helped us push BronxNet television to the next level is my guest today, and it's my long time friend, Lawrence Seiler. Larry is all the way up in Vermont. What the heck you doing there? Nice to see you, Larry. How are you?
Nice to see you too, Gary, even though I can't see you. Doing great, doing wonderful things.
I know you are. Larry, just a couple of things. First of all, why did you end up in Vermont? Now, you had, I mean, the show you had, I mean, I could tell you a whole story. You had a wonderful program called People's Special Issues. It was on BronxNet for how many years?
For about 18 and a half years, but I was at BronxNet for about 20 years.
Wow.
Started out as an access producer, and then the rest was history.
The rest was history. You know, my sense, and now you have a TV show called Abled and On Air.
Yes.
My sense is that over the years you have become even more comfortable on camera, and you've really, I don't know, kind of come into your own as a TV performer. You really are just doing an amazing job. You must feel better about being on the air every day.
Yeah. Well, I do it. As you know, Gary, because you do the same thing as I do, we educate people. It's not all about the money sometimes. It's about educating people and helping people out.
Although that doesn't hurt, let's be fair.
Yes.
Your passion for doing this is frankly legendary. And so tell me about Special People, Special Issues, and what the relationship is between that and your program that's on where? It's on cable TV in Vermont, right?
Yes. Well, Special People, Special Issues, I started in 1998. I'm sure, Gary, you remember New 67. So when I was doing that and doing those 3-4 minute pieces of interviewing people, everything from healthcare workers to group home managers, etc., those pieces became Special People, Special Issues because a lot of people wanted a longer program. Because to tell you the truth, news only gets, news people only get 2-3 minutes out of a person. But when you do a whole show, I mean, you can't cut off a group home manager or you can't cut off a parent talking about their child situation.
Well, Larry, why was it so important to you to know? I mean, let's be fair. I mean, you've never been shy about it. You are a special needs person. Why was it so important to you to do this work and then not only do it in the Bronx, but also do it even, for the rest of your life, wherever you go up there in Vermont?
Because of the fact, Gary, cerebral palsy doesn't have me. I deal with it on a daily basis. There are certain days where I get up and I have my aches and pains, but the reason why I do what I do is because, to tell you the truth, all the research I've done, sometimes news organizations won't really deal with people with special needs in the right way that they're supposed to. There's been a lot of negativity around special needs as of late, and that's the reason why I do it, to put a positive spin on special needs. People with special needs have lives. and we live productive lives. And why shouldn't those productive lives be part of a television program that focuses on ability, not disability?
Right. Well, that is the point. I mean, the name of the program is Abled and On Air, and you are very much abled. You recently did an interview with a I guess it was a Vermont TV program with a state senator. We want to show a clip.
Well, he interviewed me.
Right.
And then I interviewed him.
Well, that's wonderful. Larry, that's like what we've done. You and I have done that. In other words, you interviewed me years ago, and I interviewed you. So I want to show a clip of that. And what this does is this answers a very important question, and that was, why would Larry, who did so well in the Bronx and is a Bronx guy and still sees himself as a Bronx guy, move to Vermont? So we're going to roll that video. And Larry, let's all take a look at Larry talking on television in Vermont, and then we'll be back with Lawrence Seiler. Don't go away. Let's take a look.
Contrary to popular belief, there's a lot of people that fall through the cracks when they're challenged. Some people have what we call 1 foot in, 1 foot out. When we both were in New York, we weren't getting very many services. It's not that we need a lot, but appropriate housing was one of them. And some, where we live in Montpelier, there's doctors across the street. Who doesn't want to live where your doctor's office is right across the street?
Right.
So you don't have to travel so much. So those are the main reasons why we moved to Vermont.
Larry, that clip, and you talked about moving to Vermont to get closer access to the services that, frankly, both you and your wife need. That really tells a story about people with special needs in the borough of the Bronx, because they don't have access to those kinds of things easily, right? I mean, that's really what your advocacy is about, right?
Well, to be honest, Gary, and I try to be as honest as possible. To be honest, New York wasn't just, New York wasn't giving us the services that we needed anymore. With housing markets the way that, the way it is, and the way people's incomes are, to be honest with you, like I said in the column that I did for the Parkchester Times, NYCHA being the way it is, and on housing, if you're going to have things falling apart, people with special needs can't live in situations like that.
That's right.
So,
Larry, I'm just going to interrupt you, because nobody should live like that. But if you have special needs, it's even worse, because you have more, you just don't have time for the fact that your bathroom is, nobody has time for that, right? I mean, that's what we're talking about here.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. And that's one of the main reasons why we moved to Vermont, to get better services.
Wow.
Especially with housing.
Larry, there is a tremendous lesson for all of us in that, in terms of, the way we live in the Bronx, as much as we love the Bronx. Talk to me about the Parkchester Times and what it is that you are doing with them. And that was one of the reasons that we had you on here as a journalist.
Yes.
You're going to be doing a column for them. Tell me all about that.
Yes. Well, the Able to Speak Up is based on the show, Able and On Air, but it's a column that's going to be offering advice and places to turn for help, whether you need housing help, whether you need counseling help. Organizations that I've interviewed people in the Bronx for years, as well as here in Vermont. Matter of fact, my second column is hitting online this week, and it's about the way group homes are structured, and the way people who work in those group homes and places for people with disabilities, you need proper staffing. Because if you don't have proper staffing, example, years ago, in 1970s, the Willowbrook State School and Letchworth Village you know, there was a lot of things that happened in those two institutions. So
Larry, we're almost out of time. That is probably the quintessential example. So the point is, you're going to be doing a weekly column for the Parkchester Times, or periodic?
Every 2 weeks. Every 2 weeks, because the paper's every 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm. Larry, it's interesting because what you said right at the outset is so true, that people in the media will not, frankly, give the time of day to someone like you, but you have persevered right through that. You won't let you say, look, these are real people. These are special people with special issues, and we deserve the same opportunities as everybody else. And I remember you telling me many years ago, so what if somebody walks a little different? So what if they speak a little different? So what if they need a little assistance, whether it be with a cane or a walker or a wheelchair or whatever it is? If they have something to offer, we want to hear about it, right? That's what it's about. Listen, Larry, we need you down here because I know that you're missing that New York bagel. And maybe I'll send you a box and you can have a bunch of, although they'd be stale by the time you get them.
I just want to wish BronxNet a very happy and healthy 25th anniversary. Unfortunately, I will not be there tomorrow at the anniversary party, but I want to wish everybody a happy and healthy anniversary.
Larry, and that is the bond that has bound you and me for all these decades, literally, and it's really a beautiful thing. But you just sound great, and you're just working. To me, you are the quintessential Bronxite. You just care, and you promote, and you're not going to stop because that's what's in your bones and in your blood, and your programs are getting better, and now we got a column here in the Bronx. What could be better? You're the best. Lawrence Seiler, ladies and gentlemen.
Gary, it's like that song says, ain't no stopping us now.
There you go. Larry, all the best to your wife. And we hope one day we'll get together, or we'll have you on again, talk about some of the things that you're writing. Okay?
Yes, not a problem. Looking forward to being part of the BronxNet family again in some way, shape, or form.
Great. Larry, I know it's colder up there than here. Stay warm. All right, be well. All right, there he is, ladies and gentlemen. All right. Yep, happy anniversary, 25th to BronxNet Television. Listen, I said it there. Larry is a quintessential Bronxite, has an issue that he cares about and has worked and has overcome various issues to be able to get there. Moved out of here, but he doesn't stop. He's just advocating for what he believes. One of the really great Bronxites. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and then we're going to talk about the history of our wonderful, beautiful borough. The Northwest Bronx is a new book by Bill Toomey and Tom Casey. Tom is going to be with us, and he's got some other stuff to show. We'll be right back. More buzzing right after this.
Hey, it's Ava, and this is Tess from Vivo's Do-It-Yourselfie, where we recreate the hottest looks from today's biggest music videos.
After cleaning out our closet, we have a lot of clothes we don't wear anymore.
Like this old t-shirt.
It's not garbage, it's actually a brand new rug.
And to make it, all you need to do is cut, tie, and glue.
Cut the t-shirt into strips.
Tie the strips into knots.
And glue the knots to the bath mat. I love it. Give your garbage another life.
And recycle.
Hey, back with you on the Bronx Buzz. It is a pleasure to talk about the legacy and the history of our incredible borough. And I think every time that either I or you find out about new stuff or see pictures of the way it used to be, it's like, wait a minute, that's where we live? And who better but Tom Casey to join us. Tom, lifelong Bronxite, and also a historian working with the Bronx County Historical Society, Bart Topel, Huntington Free Library, everybody and everything you can. Nice to have you with us.
Thank you, Garrett. Good to be here.
Just a little bit about your background. When did you get involved and interested in Bronx history? And I would say, how long has it been going? It's been going for hundreds of years.
Well, actually, 7th grade, and I wasn't the best student, but one of my friends walked by St. Paul's Church and said John Adams' son was buried there. And of course,
St. Paul's in Westchester Square.
Right over by Mount Vernon, right over the border,
sorry.
by Connor Street.
I was thinking of St. Peter's Church.
Yes. And what happened was, being a down Thomas, I didn't believe him. And it turns out John McNamara had wrote an article, but he didn't write about John Adams' son. He wrote about John Quincy Adams' son, who died in the Bronx and was buried at St. Paul's. So I started researching Bronx history, going to all the libraries.
All the way back in 7th grade.
7th grade,
We're not going to ask how many years that is, but you can do the math.
60 years is about.
Yeah.
And so what I came up with was that not only did John Quincy Adams' son die in the Bronx, John Adams' son died in the Bronx.
In the Bronx.
Both of them did. And I ultimately met up with John McNamara.
John McNamara is a historian.
Historian, wrote History and Asphalt, good friend. And I told him I got started this way, and he said he never knew that John Adams had a son, Charles, that died in the Bronx, because he wrote about Quincy Adams' son, George Washington.
So there you go.
And he showed me the article, and now I knew why.
The fascination started.
I found out John Adams lived over Connor Street, 233rd, not far from where I lived, over by Parkchester, 233rd Street.
Right.
And I started finding out more about the Bronx, Paul Revere coming through back and forth through the Bronx on the Boston Post Road.
But what a great, I mean, that in and of itself is a great Bronx story. We uncover it all the time in the Bronx Buzz. Talk about Northwest Bronx, which is the book. This is a new book?
This is not new. It came out in 2011.
Okay.
But we are promoting it tomorrow night.
Right. I should mention we tape the show Wednesday, so Thursday evening is what he's talking about.
Yes.
And that will be Thursday the 17th.
Yes, at the Riverdale House on Marshall Loop Parkway, over in the Riverdale section of the Bronx, around 56th Street.
Right.
So myself and Don Rice are going to be talking about our book. His is pretty new, about Inwood. My book came out a few years ago. And the way it started is Bill Toomey wrote a book about the Bronx east of the Bronx River. Catherine Scott did one on City Island. And Bill did one on the South Bronx, which was everything south of Fordham Road.
Right.
And we knew there was an empty spot missing, and that's the Northwest Bronx. And since I live now in the Northwest Bronx, we decided let's get this together. Let's do it.
I'm just going to read the headings of the table of contents: Fordham, Bedford Park, Woodlawn, Kingsbridge, Spuyten Duyvil, Riverdale, Van Cortlandt Park. We're going to show just a couple of photos. I'm just going to hold it up so people can see. There's a zillion incredible photos in here of the Bronx, the way it used to be, things that you just wouldn't believe. But let's just roll a couple of pictures here and take a look. So what do we got? So now this one,
the famous King's Bridge.
This is actually the King. We can see it over here. This is actually the King's Bridge. Now, where is that located that people would know? Is that in Van Cortlandt Lake?
Unfortunately, it's underground now.
Wow.
It's where 230th Street in West Bronx is now paved over. So this piece of water.
I just want to get this right. So it's 230th Street, the street that leads up to the Deacon, maybe in that area?
Yes, very close to the Deacon.
And that's where this bridge was?
Exactly. To
I'll be darned.
To about 1919, 1917. And when they built the Harlem River Canal, they cut through a wider spot over the Harlem River. This was filled in.
And now what about that water? Is that what Spuyten Duyvil is?
It's the Tibbetts Brooks by Duyvil Creek, and it goes through a series of tunnels and out into the Harlem River.
Wow. And that, of course, is part of it. We don't have to get into this issue. Part of the whole thing about the Van Cortlandt Park Alliance wanting to daylight Tibbetts Brook, because we've got a mass of water that's just we can't control. I don't want to get into it. Yes, it's a great idea. All right, anyway, that is unbelievable. I believe just to the top or the left side of the picture, I have had my car washed and detailed in that spot just a couple of weeks ago.
Well, on the left would have been St. Stephen's Church, which is still there.
Wow.
And on the right, far right, would have been Godwin's Manor, which is now a post office.
Right. I know exactly where it is. All right, let's go. What's next? This is a hotel?
This is a restaurant over by Fordham Road.
Okay. And both shots of the same location?
Yeah. Well, what happened in the early days, nobody had a camera, could afford a camera, so various photographers would travel around the borough, sell a businessman or a family photographs, and put them on a postcard and publish them rather quickly. And then the business can advertise, or people could send cards back to Europe or whatever. This is my home, this is where I live. And this is probably the only photograph that exists of these businesses.
So this was located somewhere on Fordham Road?
Yes.
What's fascinating is you're looking at, and what year you estimate?
Most of these are from 1905 to about 1919.
What's fascinating is, as we know, the borough developed around subways. I mean, that's how the borough developed. And so, you know, you can't even imagine Fordham Road looking like that. But that's what it was like. And look how regal the bottom photo.
Yeah, most of the establishments and the owners were usually all well dressed, and so were the customers. This was an event to go out to a bar or an establishment for entertainment or a meal or a drink.
On that note, I think the next picture, some of us who are a little younger will appreciate. This is the interior of Jan's.
Oh, yes. Jan's started out actually around 138th Street in the Bronx.
Oh, I did not know that.
And then they had spots in the Bronx on Fordham Road, and of course, they went out to Queens also. Tall in the saddle,
this is
the kitchen sink.
This is the interior of the Fordham Road?
Yes.
So I will just fill it in. Now, we have a lot of young people working for us here in the studio who don't know what we're talking about. Jan's was the most amazing ice cream parlor that you could ever imagine. If you think Baskin-Robbins has a lot of flavors, this was a classy place, and I'm stealing your thunder, Tom, but you know it as well as I do. Every graduation was held there. When you had a party, I remember after my junior high school, when we had junior high schools instead of middle school, when we had my junior high school concerts, everybody would pile into Jan's, and they had, you already mentioned, the tall in the saddle. They had the kitchen sink, which was this huge bucket of ice cream for everybody on the table. A dream place. For people who don't know, it is where the Fordham Library, the Kingsbridge Library stands right now.
The main library, Fordham,
the main library of the Bronx stands right now.
After going to a movie in the Bronx at the Loewy's Paradise or the RKO, Fordham, Jan's.
And you could see how regal it was and how beautiful. I will tell you what I know now, maybe you can update it. There's one Jan's left, and that is in Queens. And really all it is a diner, but they do give out the same historic menu.
Very good. Yes, I know where it is, but I have never gone back to it.
We did go there, and it was disappointing because it was just like a diner. The only thing that was related to what we just saw was they gave out the classic, like it was in the same format, the menu. So that was nice.
Yes, very nice.
Yeah, it didn't mean much. Talk to me about the research on this. I mean, I see here a picture of Gaelic Park. I mean, there's a million things that you will recognize here.
Well, one of my hobbies is collecting Bronx postcards.
So now, are we cueing the next thing here? Vintage postcards?
They're both connected in some ways. This book, The Bronx View, that started much earlier because
that's this one that I'm holding here.
Right, it's 24 full-colored postcards.
Right.
Matter
of fact,
can
we get a picture of this book? Well, just show them, hold up the book, put it on. There we go. That's the picture. That's the book.
So the Bronx Historical Society was working on a theme of the same idea. I was working on my own, and so I started discussing this with Gary Hermling. We said we might as well do it together.
And so these were postcards, or if we can get me on camera here. These were postcards,
and
or are postcards.
And they can be used, pulled out of the booklet and
they're
mailed.
Perforated?
Yes.
Wow, and so there are pictures of classics, so if you want to send a special card to somebody, nobody uses postcards nowadays, maybe they ought to.
Well, they use them a lot still.
So here's one of Fordham Road. I mean,
yes.
Now this is available. I mean, Dr. Gary Hermelin.
We made quite a few of those, and I actually financed it and donated it to the Bronx Historical Society. So I have maybe a couple dozen copies of my own, but they're available at the Bronx Historical Society and online from the Historical Society.
I always joke with Professor Lloyd Alton, who's the Bronx Borough historian, and I always say to him, what's new in history, and or in Bronx history? You folks are working on something that's very contemporary, and that's the Huntington Free Library. Let's talk about that library, which is an historic spot in the Bronx, in Westchester Square. Where are we at? What are we trying to do?
It's a landmark building, and I've been involved as the president for 8 years. And now I just recently stepped down
of the library.
Of the library, and I'm still on the board. Angel Hernandez is our new president.
Right.
He's an educator from the Bronx Historical Society.
Sure.
So we're moving ahead. We've been working with the city and the New York Public Library to sell our excess property for about 10 years, and the contract's been outstanding. All the issues are pretty much resolved. We just need the New York Public Library to pull the trigger and give us a closing date.
And then what would be in that spot? It would be more of a library?
A brand new modern library has been already designed.
Wow.
And it won't be attached to our building. The landmark building will stand alone.
Are you concerned that if this deal doesn't come through, that something else will be there that you don't want, or you don't even think about it?
We prefer having...
I'm sorry, I've been in the Bronx too long. I know that property right now is hot.
It is, and we've actually gotten better offers than the library has offered. But we prefer having them as a neighbor. So does the Bronx Westchester Square Bid, who's been working with us for many years.
To get this done.
They want to bring the library to the East Bronx.
I want to, before we run out of time, you also have the Bartow Pell Mansion, which is, again, wonderful spot.
Another landmark.
Give me about 30 seconds on that.
The Bartow, I'm on the board of directors there, and we're also having a talk on November 22nd about Bronx breweries. There were hundreds of breweries in the Bronx.
And there still are a couple.
Still a few. We're going to
very vibrant.
We're going to promote those during that talk and get people to
samples.
Maybe something.
All right. And then the last thing I just wanted to mention, you were telling me about a talk about Freedom Land.
Yes. Next month, November, the third Wednesday of the month, at the Huntington Free Library. We're going to have Mike Virgintino talk about Freedom Land. He has a book out on it. I actually have done a few talks myself on Freedom Land, so it's always a lot of fun because we usually get about 25 to 35 people meeting, and everybody has their own story. Sometimes,
well, certainly about Freedom Land, anybody, certainly you and me and all the other people of our generation remember Freedom Land before Co-op City.
My Aunt Betty used to work there, so we got a Freedom Mission.
Got a lot to say. Listen, Tom, it is an absolute pleasure to have you. Thank you
for,
Gary. Listen, we're not going to know where we're going unless we know where we've been. This is where we've been. So check it out. The book, Images of America in the Northwest Bronx. You can Bronx Views. And please visit and support all our historic places.
Very good, Gary.
Great. Thank you very much. Folks, guess what happens now? You know what happens? That's the end of the show. We will thank Larry Seiler and thank Tom Casey and thank you for being with us. And Monday night on Bronx Talk, we're going to talk about community land trusts and how they might be used in helping communities keep hold of important properties. Anyway, thank you so much for joining us. We'll see you then. Happy birthday to BronxNet Television. Bronx Talk also, 25 years. Good night.